Hi guys, this is a tutorial on how to rebuild any kind of bottom coil head, and the coils that we're going to use are these coiler coils. These coils right here, they're professionally coiled and pre-prepared to just insert straight into the atomizer. There we go. If you have a look here, just get some focus. There we go. As you can see, really well coiled, and they're coiled around 3mm wick, which provides great liquid flow, and you get great vapor and throat hit and flavor. Right, so let's start rebuilding. Now, you find that there's different lengths of bottom coil heads. This one here is a longer length than the bottom one here. Essentially, they're all the same, and they can all be rebuilt using the same method. And you can use them in whatever. You can use them in protank, GSH2, mini protank, any atomizer which uses these kind of coils. Now let's start the rebuild. Right, let me undo this. Right, one thing to note is that if you have a bottom head like this with a longer top end, you can pretty much dismantle this by hand, the top end. You can also dismantle these shorter top ends by hand as well, but for convenience sake I like to use some kind of aid. So you can use a wrench, anything that will grip. Right, so simply a matter of twisting, and notice I've still got the head inserted into the base, and this makes it really easy to dismantle. There we go, that's out. Now what I'll do is I'll just take the head out of the base and ready for further dismantling. Okay, so it's quite self-explanatory. Just need to remove the bottom post, and the rubber insulator. Now you might want to use tweezers to remove the rubber insulator, but it's pretty straightforward to remove it by hand. Just pinch it and pull it out. That's it. And then we can just go ahead and pull out the original coil. There we go. Now, in the original coils, you might find that there are two wicks. There is the coiled wick and then another wick on top. That's largely there to stop the head from leaking. But the good thing about these coiler coils is that they're 3mm, and that will mean that they are sealed, so there's no need for an extra wick on top. And you find that the vapor production is slightly better on these because there's no restriction to the flow of vapor. Now this is the coil that I'm going to use. As you can see, it's very nicely professionally coiled. Let me just get some focus. There we go. So the idea now is to insert this coil straight into the head body and just squeeze them together a little bit and just push it through. There we go. And it's just a matter of pushing it straight through. as you can see, it's a 3mm wick, so it's quite tight, which is great as a sealant. So you'll find that if you have an old atomizer which is leaking, this new type of wick will actually stop it from leaking. Now what I like to do is just bend one of the wires, and that creates stability in rebuilding. And you need to take the rubber insulator and push it straight in. Now don't be afraid to just squeeze it and just jab it in. It's rubber, so it just goes in. There you go. And finally I like to bend this wire as well, and that creates stability in pushing it back in. And when I turn it around, make sure that everything is in the middle. If it's not, just kind of push the wires into the middle. Because these wires are coiled by machine, you find they won't deform if you push them in and out. Obviously don't push them too much, that will deform them, but there is room for wiggle. Now it's just a matter of putting in the bottom post. There you go. Now you find that the wick might have moved up, so it's a good idea to just tighten the wires a little bit. So if you just tighten them here, there we go. Now here you can, to actually take off the excess wire, you can either use scissors, or what I like to do is I like to bend them back and forth. Now I like this method because it means once they're gone, there's no protruding wire. It takes a bit of time, maybe around 15-30 seconds. But make sure you pinch the top and the bottom before you do this. There you go, that one's out. And we turn around and do the other one too. And that's it, that's done. If you look at the top, perfect. Have a look at that, really good. Now we just bung the top end in. Now this might initially seem a little, if you've just started rebuilding, if it hasn't been rebuilt before, it might be a little tight. But don't be afraid to use some kind of hammer or some kind of tapping device. So what I'm going to do is tap this in. Let me just like to put it back on the device and tap it like so. And it's all in. That's it. So now we just trim off the excess wick. And we're done.